we'll see the relationship between personal and professional ethics. Basically, not a relationship, the differences between these two. Because, this class is actually on ethics broadly, but professional ethics is a branch of ethics. Ethics is a very broad discipline which deals with human behavior, the moral value of human behavior, whether a particular behavior is right or wrong or good or evil, these kinds of things. Okay, based on certain criteria, of course, and also based on reason to a great extent in today's world. So, professional ethics is actually a very practical application of ethics because we live in a society today in the modern world where we depend a lot on our professional communities. There are several professional communities in our society, like doctors, lawyers, teachers, sportsmen, politicians. These are all specific professional communities, and a modern society need their services to a great extent in order to run its usual business. We cannot, survive without the expert services of the professional communities. But at the same time, it's also important that there should be some integration in the sense that uh, these different functional spheres like politicians, businessmen, sports persons, teachers, lawyers, they are all different professional communities, and they are not necessarily related to each other in the sense that one the set of norms which are valid within one professional community are equally valid in another professional community. No, it's not in that way. They have their own unique set of values which probably are necessary for each professional community to maintain its autonomy and professionalism. At the same time, there should be some integration. Okay, otherwise things will just wither away. Things will just stay apart, and they will not come together. They will not cohere. They will not function together. So it's very important that in a society, they need to function together. And this will happen only if there is a broad agreement on certain very broad ethical norms and also, of course, legal parameters. And it is in this context we need to see the kind of relationship, the complex relationship between personal and professional ethics. I will not be discussing that in detail now. What is important in today's world, in the modern world, is to find the application of ethics in specific professional domains. Okay. And one of the most rampant phenomena in our modern societies is corruption. So there is corruption everywhere. Corruption is almost ubiquitous. It's there everywhere. You find it everywhere. And of course, there is no simple solution to the problem of corruption. But at the same time, we need to contain it. We need to control it. We need to regulate it. Okay. And in this context, we need to raise certain very broad issues like what role does an individual have in the society, whether the individual works in an organization, whether he or she is part of a professional community, where he or she is expected to deliver certain specific responsibilities pertaining to that particular community. At the same time, they are all members of a larger moral community. Okay, so often there might be clashes between the demands and the requirements of this larger moral community and the specific communities to which they belong to. The best example I can cite is between a businessman and the society, because a businessman, one of the primary concerns of a businessman is to make profit. Because business organizations are profit-making organizations. They are expected to make profits, and they do certain things. Their activities are all oriented towards this goal, making profits. But at the same time, since business organizations they function in a society, they need to respect certain norms which are imposed or which the society considers as important. Okay, so it's very important that they are not indulged in certain practices which will harm the general health of the society. what is an organization? What is a professional community? A professional community or an organization is nothing but a collection of individuals. A group of individuals come together with a common goal. That makes an organization. Okay. And these individuals are all coming from their respective cultural value domains. They carry their baggage of values with them. And once they come together, they will have to undergo a great deal of negotiation. With these values need to be negotiated. These personal values which they carry as a baggage with them, which they bring to wherever place they go, they need to negotiate this with the values of an organization to which they will belong. So that's a complex process. So we have to understand, how the individual does it within an organization and also in the society. And in this context, we'll see some traditional insights as well. That's where I thought we'll discuss two important concepts. One is the concept of virtue, which is actually a technical term which we have already discussed in the context of virtue ethics, where virtues are considered to be the focal point. And we'll also see the concept of dharma. We have already mentioned about this. Dharma is an Indian concept. Okay, so we'll see the relationship between these two concepts. Virtue is basically fundamentally Greek notion, which was proponed by many thinkers like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and primarily Aristotle. Aristotle has a very systematic exposition of this term virtue in his philosophy, in his ethical theory. And the concept of dharma is extensively discussed by Indian philosophical schools as well as religious traditions. See, Buddhism, for example, they call it Dhamma, or dharma for them is also a very important concept, though they differ from the Vedic interpretations and other few interpretations of dharma. They even criticize the Vedic interpretations, but at the same time, they also agree that dharma is very important. Okay. And then we will touch upon the Bhagavad Gita perspective. I'm taking a Bhagavad Gita perspective because, Bhagavad Gita is regaining its importance in many parts of the world, not just in India, in many parts of the world, particularly with its concept of Nishkama karma. Nishkama karma is not an extremely complex concept, but at the same time, one needs to be very careful when you try to understand this concept, because it is not an exclusive concept which is meant for sages or people who have renounced this world. It has got practical applications in today's world as well. Okay, so we'll see that a little bit. So this is the broad outline of this lecture, today's lecture. Okay, the differences between personal and professional ethics. I'll just summarize. Personal ethics is too general, while professional ethics is specific, which I've already told you, because it deals with one specific profession. Then, the main point is that, just see the examples here. Examples for general ethics are honesty, integrity, openness, and sense of responsibility, which probably every human being is expected to sort of honor these values. Okay, one needs to be honest, and there is a general saying that honesty is the best policy, and which is applicable to all spheres of life. Then integrity is something which we all respect. People with great integrity are people with exemplary character and all that. Then examples of professional ethics are confidentiality, fairness. We mentioned that, in the case of a doctor-patient relationship, quite often what happens is that the patient goes to the doctor and discusses with his or her physician certain information about himself or herself, about the patient, which he or she doesn't want other to know. They are very uncomfortable if other people come to know about it. And I don't want to use the word secret here. It's confidential. Okay, that's the difference between secrecy and confidentiality. So certain confidential information about me, I might reveal it to my physician, but I don't generally reveal it to other people. And I expect that the physician would keep it as confidential with him. I don't expect him to reveal it to other people. Let's now come to another important aspect. Because, as I already pointed out, when we discuss the practical application of ethics, we have to actually focus on the contemporary reality. What is happening today? What is happening in the modern world? Okay. And in the modern world, we are dealing with institutions. And when we take the situation in India, the healthcare sector itself, there are an estimated 14,000 hospitals in India, excluding the private clinics and nursing homes. This is the statistics of nearly about 10 years ago. So things would have multiplied now. So that's the way in which corporatization is happening in just one sector, the health sector. And corresponding to this growth of the health sector in our country, I'm just focusing on our country, India. There is a huge growth in the health insurance market as well. And even the governments have come forward with very attractive and at the same time very useful insurance plans for citizens, for particularly for focusing on old people, women, children, and all that. Many governments, the state governments as well as the governments at the center, have come up with insurance plans, which would ultimately help people.